Have, Caesar! Those who are about to die salute you. The earth shakes beneath the feet of 50,000 Persian warriors as they surge toward the Roman lines outside the fortress of Dara. At the heart of the chaos stands General Belisarius, a young commander facing impossible odds, who is about to make a decision that could alter the fate of the empire. In 527 AD, a new ruler, Justinian I, ascended the Eastern Roman throne. Ambitious and determined to restore the glory of Rome, he inherited not only a divided empire, but a fragile peace with the Sassanian Empire. To the east, Kavad I had long probed Rome's defenses. His empire challenged Rome's authority across Mesopotamia and beyond. And when diplomacy failed, both empires turned once again to war. In 528 AD, the Sassanian Empire launched an incursion into Lazica, managing to seize several key fortresses. Pressed hard across the frontier, Justinian responded by reorganizing his military leadership in the east. He appointed sitters to command the northern sector in Armenia, while entrusting the southern front to Belisarius, who was tasked with protecting the construction of a new frontier fort at Thanuris. Belisarius's forces were outmaneuvered and defeated by Xerxes, one of King Kavad's sons, forcing him to fall back to the fortified city of Dara. Yet the victory came at a cost for the Sassanians. 500 of their elite immortals were slain in the fighting. Enraged by the heavy losses, Kavad punished his son severely, throwing Xerxes into prison. With Roman defenses shaken and morale low, Kavad seized the moment. He ordered his main army in the south to march on Dara, determined to deliver a crushing blow to Justinian's forces and secure dominance in Syria once and for all. It's the year 530 AD. Belisarius, the last Roman general, leads the Eastern Roman army to confront the Persians led by Peros, advancing toward Dara. The Eastern Roman army changed in the 6th century. After battles with the Persians and Huns, they've adapted to new warfare. The Eastern Roman cavalry now plays an important role and was equipped with bows. Belisarius's elite troops are the Belisarius, his personal regiment, known as the Biscuit Eaters. Roman archers now use strong Hunnic composite reflex bows, and the infantry is used for defensive purposes. Hun and Heruli mercenaries were integrated into Belisarius's army for this battle. At the Battle of Dara, Belisarius chose to confront the Persian army outside the city walls. He ordered the construction of defensive ditches to reinforce his positions with flanks extended forward. The infantry was stationed in the center, and the cavalry was deployed on both sides. While 2 units of 600 Huns were placed between the flanks to offer additional support. His regiment, the Belisarius, remained in reserve. The day after departing from Nisibis, the Sassanian army reached the outskirts of Dara. Peros observed the Roman formations, and it became clear that his forces held the advantage. However, he understood that his choices were limited, as he would either need to drive the enemy back into the city and begin a siege, or draw them into open battle. Peros led an army of 40,000 soldiers. 15,000 were untrained levies with little experience in battle, while 5,000 were heavy infantry mercenaries. He deployed his 20,000 cavalry on the flanks, mirroring the Roman tactical layout. Belisarius sought to open negotiations, but Peros demanded that a bath be prepared to celebrate his expected triumph at Dara. The Persians launched a probing attack against the Roman left flank. Arrows dark as approaching death filled the sky. Persian cavalry surged forward with the weight of an avalanche, their blades gleaming and their cries piercing through the roar of battle. Roman cavalry counterattacked, and the carnage had begun. The Roman line, though outnumbered, held firm like an immovable wall against the fury of the Persian assault. The sunlight caught the curve of drawn bows, and the tips of spears flashed like the final light seen by the fallen warriors as both armies collided. After a brief clash, the Roman cavalry began a calculated retreat, luring the Persians into a trap. At Belisarius' signal, the Huns released a deadly volley of arrows, cutting down the pursuing cavalry with brutal precision. Persian riders fell from their horses, lifeless, before they struck the ground. The battlefield echoed with the cries of the dying. The Persians began withdrawing, attempting to lure the Romans into a trap, but Belisarius held his men behind the trenches. Panic spread through the Persian ranks. Men trampled their comrades in a desperate attempt to flee, and the once proud army descended into a disordered mass of dying and retreating soldiers. A Persian champion stepped forward to challenge the Roman line, hoping to rally his troops through single combat. Andreas, a towering wrestling instructor known for his strength, accepted without hesitation. Before the Persian could react, Andreas struck him down. Later, he slew a second challenger to the cheers of the Romans and the dismay of the Sassanid ranks. The next day, Peros received reinforcements from Nisibis, swelling his army to 50,000. Outnumbering the Romans 2-1, he prepared for a decisive attack. He arranged his infantry and archers in the center with heavy cavalry on both flanks. Anticipating that Belisarius might strengthen his left flank after the previous day's engagement, Peros concentrated elite units, including the Immortals and the Savaran cavalry, on the Roman right. At noon, he launched the assault. Archers moved forward with orders to engage the Roman missile troops and pin them down during the cavalry advance. As both sides came within range, the battle erupted in a storm of arrows. Though Persian archers were famed for their skill, the wind turned against them, blowing hard into their faces and weakening their volleys. The Romans held the advantage. Once the Persians exhausted their arrows, the cavalry began its charge. This was the moment Belisarius had been waiting for. As the enemy horsemen neared the trenches, Roman troops braced for impact. Then came the charge, a thunderous wave of horses and steel, with armored lances aimed like fangs at the Roman heart. The heaviest fighting erupted on the left, where the Romans gradually gave ground. Belisarius responded by ordering the Hunnic cavalry from the center right to intercept and break their momentum. Lances shattered against shields. Swords tore through flesh. Bones snapped under the sheer force of impact. Cries of the wounded vanished beneath the deafening roar of combat, a brutal storm of pain and steel. Persian riders impaled Roman soldiers, lifting them from the ground before tossing them aside like broken dolls. The Roman cavalry fell back, their horses rearing in terror as riders were cut down by curved blades. On the Roman left, the situation was just as grim. Screaming Persian cavalry stormed the trenches, striking with relentless force. Shields splintered, and though the Romans held firm, their line began to waver under the furious assault. Soldiers gasped their final breaths as blades found throats, and silence fell upon them forever. Seeing that the left flank was near collapse, Belisarius gave the signal. Several hundred Heruli cavalry emerged from the trees on the hillside, charging down into the Persian flank. The Heruli rode like wolves sensing prey, their spears gleaming as they slammed into the Persian line. From the center left, the Huns advanced to complete the maneuver. Seeing that the left flank was near collapse, Belisarius personally led his reserves into the melee to steady the line. The battlefield erupted into chaos. Roman counterattack tore through the Persian ranks, spreading confusion and fear. At last, the Persian left broke and fled, leaving 3,000 dead on the field. Roman cavalry from the left repositioned to support our right flank, halting the Persian advance. Blades plunged into flesh, blood sprayed across armor, turning gold crests crimson. Heads fell, bodies collapsed, twitching in the dust, severed limbs clutching at life in vain. The once mighty Persian formation was dissolved into screaming fragments, and their will was shattered. In the chaos, the Persian second in command was slain. Panic swept through the survivors. Discipline collapsed. Some Persians were cut down where they stood. Others fled in disarray. The Sassanid army dissolved into a complete rout. Roman losses numbered 5,000 dead or wounded. The Persians suffered twice that. Victory was on the Roman side, but the war was far from over.